So House of the Dragon Season 2 is out. Before we go into the Season 2, we'll talk about Season 1 real quick and our thoughts on it.
I think HBO have done incredibly well in keeping this brand alive. I think while being on the internet, you might feel like everyone hated the finale of Game of Thrones.
I think it's universally hated.
I don't think I've ever met someone in person who was like, no, I'm really pleased with that ending.
I think it's pretty universally hated, but everyone kind of just accepted it. Like, that's one thing we can't do with Star Wars because it keeps sucking. But with this, it's kind of like, we can segment 8 died. Before that was really good, then it died, and now it's kind of like, oh, we're in a new era.
Yeah, exactly. And then as a book fan holding on to my 5 and waiting for the other 2, they remain perfect and unread. Oh, the great books that will be, or hopefully will be.
God, that'll be a thing.
So I think HBO has done an incredible job in revitalising this. For them to, in one season, they kind of brought the hype back to it. Now it's pick your side, Team Green, Team Black, because this has spawned from a world-building tidbit from the actual novels, and that is that George is like, oh, well, there weren't any dragons or else King Robert wouldn't have won. So he just goes, oh, well, there was a Targaryen civil war.
Yeah.
And at the time, George, when he was writing the book, he just had a list of like 14 Aegons and didn't like think much beyond it, and just said, oh, at some point there was a Dance of the Dragons, which meant the dragons died out. But then he's one of these rare authors who is so popular enough that people want the history books.
Yeah.
What they have done with the first season, they have adapted very well the worst part of that. I mean, obviously in the book he leaned out as best as he could, but there's a definite sense that he's rushing through that section to get to the actual battles and all the cool stuff that will come. So for them to add a characterism to Viserys, for example, Viserys in the book is just a lazy, dopey king who just wants his daughter to be queen, and at the end gets a bit poorly. So for them to make him like this leper king who just wants his family to get on, even George said. So I think season 1 was a really good start, considering they didn't have the wealth that D&D did initially. Like, they had a much simpler, thing to adapt.
Yeah, I think they did a great job adapting pretty much like a bare bone outline. The only thing that held season 1 back for me was they kind of rushed it. It feels like the amount of time jumps and the way they had to deal with everything. I don't know whether it was HBO sanctioned and they needed to get them to a certain point, but honestly, season 1, I just binged over the last 2 days. It feels like 3 seasons. Like, it feels like 3 incredibly short seasons, and I come out of it not knowing everyone as well as I would like to. The big thing that happens at the end of season 1 is Viserys gets murdered.
Yes,
gets eaten alive. But we've barely seen Viserys.
Yeah, there's
like he probably gets 10 minutes screen time in 10 episodes. Like,
that's definitely the problem. Also, because he's just a name the book is written as a historical document in world. It's been wrote by a maester who's reading the works of a previous maester, Grand Maester Munkin's true telling of the Dance of the Dragons. But that
means they basically had free reign of whatever they wanted to do.
And George in the book is like, who knows why this happened? There's like 3 options, and then Ryan got to pick the option he wanted.
Yeah.
Which often I would say, top of my head, he picked the correct options every time. So for him to actually try and take these names that are just facts on a book, it's written well enough, but it's not a narrative. I really like the change that Alicent and Rhaenyra are friends growing up, whereas in the book, Alicent is 10 years older, is a bit more of a stepmother who doesn't really like Rhaenyra, and then there's even a bit of a Rhaenyra's jealous slightly because Rhaenyra gets fat after childbirth, where Alicent, it shaves right off her.
Yeah.
And that is partly meant to be a bit of a, Rhaenyra used to be the realm's delight, but now she's just this
makes
fat
Rhaenyra
pig.
feel a little shallow.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it was HBO sanctioned and that's why they felt rushed, like whether they had to get it all out, but I don't really feel like Viserys' death at the end of season 1 is any bigger than any other of the moments that they've done. Like, there are several big moments in season 1 that they could have fleshed out more and made the finale.
I think if you could have went back, I guess, you make Viserys the absolute vocal point of that series.
Yeah.
And then when he
like
dies,
his death is
that's
the end. Of season 1.
So it's like kind of similar to Ned Stark, spoilers, of book 1 and season 1. He is the main character of that book. He's the main character of season 1.
Yeah.
So when he goes, you're like, and then everything kicks off. So you could have had a mirroring of Viserys is the main character.
I don't even think it would have felt too close either. Like, we wouldn't have been like, he's just Ned Stark again, because they're so dramatically different.
So different. The show stretched out a few things, like the crab feeder stuff it's just paragraphs. Daemon did this that one time.
Even that feels too shallow for me, especially because the amount of times the Stepstones comes back so often. Crab feeder war happens before in episode 5, I think. So they probably could have made that season 1. So basically what I would have loved in a perfect timeline. I'm still very happy with season 1. It's still a great show.
Considering what they were coming back from.
If season 1 was just all childhood, and then season 2 was all like her kids are young, and then season 3 is all her kids are teenagers now.
It's just money, isn't it? They want to get to the dragon fights.
I feel like they had them. They could have made shit up as long as they don't go against anything that already exists. And because it's so bare bones, they had so much freedom.
And George has been pretty clear on show canon and book canon.
It's not going to ruin people's stuff because the way D&D already changed so much, it doesn't really change too much. That would have been my perfect world, but can't change the past. But we're in season 2 now.
Yes.
You've read all the books. You've seen season 1 several times. So I'm calling you the lore expert in this one. And I'm just
honoured.
The TV show enjoyer.
Oh, I should sit there, mate.
Season 2 kicks off exactly where season 1 ended.
It's episode 11. Like, if you're binging this, you won't even feel the gap in time.
Well, the only thing you'll feel is Jason decided to change his haircut, which is a little strange.
Which I'm really actually glad, because that wig was a piece of shit. And everyone is...
was it a wig in season 1?
It was a wig in season 1.
Oh, interesting.
And everyone hated it, particularly when
it just looked like Bieber.
Particularly when his natural hair fits his biological father's hair so much.
His current one?
Yeah, that's his natural hair.
They should have just had that from the beginning then.
Yeah.
But I'll just say in my headcanon, it got really windswept on the way to Winterfell.
Or maybe he was straightening it to try and hide the curls.
The winter chill curled it right up.
Sure. I actually, as a fan of Harry Collette is the actor's name, he is the most...
Jawline McGee.
Book accurate Jon Snow.
Oh, fair.
Like, if they were making Game of Thrones today, they would cast him. Because Jon Snow is a secret Targaryen. So, he has the black hair. He actually has a very sharp Targaryenness. So, he's been wonderfully cast as also because House Strung is a very ancient house, arguably from the north, but they moved into the Riverlands in various historical reasons, 1,000 years.
Well, he looks like he looks like a Stark or a Baratheon.
Yeah, he looks like it. So he sits really well. We open on
the cringiest voiceover I've ever heard in my life.
Oh,
I hated it. They're doing their best Sean Bean accent.
Well, I
just don't like. I think I just don't like voiceover. I know that it's technically diegetic, like when they cut
it's one of those smooth ones.
It's him talking. But it just felt a little bit too cringe considering what we've had.
It was definitely nice to hear the Stark music, the Winter is Coming music. Yep.
Within 10 minutes of this season, of this episode,
yes,
it feels like we've been to more of the world than we did on all of season 1,
which is intentional.
I think it might have been an intentional choice, just because I did feel quite cramped in season 1 compared to Game of Thrones. Like, Game of Thrones would jump around so much. So for season 2 to open it up a bit more, give us a few more locales was nice.
The argument would be that we spent 10 seasons with the cause. Now it's time to spread out.
Yes.
And well, I did like that Otto was sending out all those ravens, because it's very true to his character, and he was sending them out. And a lot of them, if you were opening them, he was just writing down subscribe. As a fan of the books, Cregan Stark is definitely a character who I was very excited to see. I won't give away much about Cregan Stark.
We're not doing spoilers.
No, we're not doing spoilers at all.
Even though they're probably changing enough that anything you think might happen might not.
In this, they've already cut out. So the book has 3 key sources. You have Septon Eustace, you have Grand Maester Orwyle, who is the black gentleman on the council.
Oh, we have, okay.
That's Grand Maester Orwyle.
I was about to say, haven't met any of them.
And then you have Mushroom, who does not appear in the show, although one could argue Mushroom has a slight cameo as the dwarf on the drums at the wedding ceremony. Mushroom is giving his account on his deathbed, and he gives the most salacious accounts of every time. So even though Mushroom wasn't in Winterfell, well, in the book, I will refrain from doing in the book a lot, but Jace spends some time in Winterfell with Cregan Stark, and we're told that he rumouredly married Cregan's bastard sister, Sarah Snow, and they made a pact of ice and fire together.
Right.
And so they believed they would be brothers and they would look after each other. And there's even some fan theories that maybe Sarah Snow didn't exist, and maybe Jace and Cregan had a little bit of a connection beyond just brotherly love. But in this, obviously, we don't have all the time because we're doing a narrative.
But they could have had all the time.
Yeah, they could have, but he's recently overthrown his uncle who was trying to keep power in the north, and Cregan had to rise up and overthrow his uncle. So he's pretty goated already.
There's a lot of interesting stuff.
A lot of interesting stuff, but we see him at the wall. We are establishing, hey, here we are. We're following on, like we're saying, like episode 11. Oh, yeah.
Because if you haven't watched all of Game of Thrones, they mentioned the wall a fair bit in season 1, and they're probably going to continue to do so forward. So it's a good little, it's quick. It doesn't dwell too much on the evil witch king is coming, which they do,
which
a
also
fair bit
is
too much.
sadly, in terms of show lore, is a big king nothing if you're fully caught up on Game of Thrones. So it's weird they bring it up because it's important to these guys that like Rhaenyra's thing at least is meant to be not me wanting power. It's about trying to protect the realm and Aegon's dream, which is canon. Like George has said that he will reveal that Aegon had a dream, and that's why Aegon invaded Westeros. So it was really nice to see. It was also I fangirled out a little bit because he's holding ice, which is the ancestral sword of Stark.
Oh, is it? Right.
House Stark, which kills Ned in season 1 because he brought it with him, and we get reference. It's right there that the Grey Wolves are being. So the old soldiers, the Grey Wolves, will be assembled.
Who are the Grey Wolves as old people?
They are older men who have seen enough winters and who, in order to, because, you know, winter's here, and in this universe, it's summer for years and it's winter for years. So they don't know how long the winter will last for. So in order to help protect the young people, and they're like, oh, well, we don't want to, you know, less mouths to feed, so we'll just go down south and we'll fight. And so the north can be protected.
Quick touch on the title sequence from the very beginning.
Oh, of course.
I found it just as unhelpful as season 1's.
That's the whole Targaryen history. So you're seeing Aegon the Conqueror, you're seeing Jaehaerys and his good wife Alicent.
I think one of the reasons the Game of Thrones one worked so well is because it reminded you of certain places. Like it would go to Essos when we were spending some of the time in Essos. It would show us how far things are from each other. It would take you to the river run because they mention a lot of places.
At this point, it would be nice actually because, you know, in the preview we saw Daemon will be going to see. I'm very keen to see the Elmo Tully and Kermit Tully and all the Muppet children because George is a fan of the Muppets. So we will be going to River Run, and the River Run is pretty important because we're gonna, you know, we'll be seeing the Blackwoods and the Brackens. So to be able to get a sense of that space, because you were telling me how, considering how often they bring up the stepstones, it's never actually fucking made clear where they are. I know where they are, but that's because I'm an insane person. Like
even on the maps, we barely get shown where anything is. So I think the title sequence would have been really useful. And I'm like, oh, it's cool, it's different, it's thread, it's a little.
Which would be good to just see who's green and who's black, like in terms of the countries.
Anything, but I could barely pick what characters were meant to be who.
Yeah,
so it doesn't matter. But
no.
It would have been a nice little refresher, I think.
Yes,
especially because season 1 was 2 years ago. Even if it retold certain alliances, I don't know, anything except the vague history of the Targaryens.
Back's tapestry is a long fucking tapestry talking about William the Conqueror and Harry.
Oh, okay. So
it's kind of like inspired by that.
Yeah, I just think it would have been nice if it was useful. But apart from that, it looks cool.
It looks cool. So we get word that Lucerys is dead, so Jace obviously flies back to Dragonstone. But we essentially get just a lot of establishing, like, hey, here's where the characters are right now.
It's pretty much just resetting the status quo.
Here's where everyone is. For me, the book is fairly black leading. Like, it favours blacks, but not quite as much as season 1 favoured blacks.
I think, yes. It's because they had to speed things up and they were doing so many time jumps. Alicent kind of has one big turn where she suddenly goes crazy almost. So it's very much like blacks were the good guys the whole time. Yes. And they've never really done anything wrong until, I guess, Daemon joins. But the greens are kind of definitely the bad guys, which I hope this season levels them out a bit more.
Which I think it's a narrative choice because I'm not going to go into it, but if Rhaenyra should start in one place and end in another because she's a main character. So it would be silly if we all just started with everyone's a dick and everyone hates each other, then why are we invested? So they've made some right choices there. I didn't like how they got rid of Rhaenor in season 1, I should mention. Rhaenyra gets the King Arthur moment. She sees the white stag, which is borrowed from the King Arthur myth. It's not in the House of the Dragon. It's not in the lore of Game of Thrones. She gets that moment, which tells her and the audience that she's meant to be. So we're meant to at least align with her.
I liked to view it as she thought she was.
She thought she was.
Even if she actually isn't, she took it as,
she gets the hero moment. And I was quite happy in this because they went with the choice to make Aegon the most debauched version, which in the book, it's frowned that Aegon maybe is a little bit of a whore man, but that's just one option. He didn't have to be. So in this, there definitely seems to be a need to, you know, maybe because of the marketing, like Team Green, Team Black, and they want to maybe go with some fan stuff. But I was very glad that Aegon has actually took a step forward because all we got is that he finally gets acceptance from the people and obviously really likes having that acceptance.
Even from early in the first season, they talk about the way that he should be king because he's a man. I like the angle that they take where the people of the city really don't give a about anything going on.
of course
It
not.
doesn't affect them. But when they hear a woman in charge or a man in charge, they're like, man in charge.
Yeah,
Like,
and
they
then-
don't care, but they're like, man in charge.
And he has the Conqueror's name. He wears the Conqueror's helmet.
He's easier to market to the people.
And Otto and Alicent in the show, which is better than the book, have been running the kingdom for a decade at that point in Viserys' name. So they just kind of want another puppet king, which they have in their little conversation in this episode where they're like, once a novelty of rule fades away, we'll step in and we'll be just right.
Yeah. I like the Aegon actor, the way he's playing off, that he isn't vindictive. Like, he's not Joffrey or anything like that.
Yeah,
he does
he's a
just
better
want to
king
fuck
in
around.
one scene than Joffrey.
He just wants to make everyone happy a little bit like his
Too
dad.
much.
And then Otto's like, God damn it, not again.
Not again. I was really happy that they did that. I mean, obviously, there's, I knew it was the, hey, remember everyone, I have a son? A son. I
Yes.
love my son, because he seems somewhat indifferent to them, to the point where some fans were thinking that Aemond was actually the father.
Oh.
And there was a shitload of fan art of Aemond with his sister.
I mean, he does say in season 1 that he'd do his duty if he had to.
And so while I was like, oh, that could be an interesting thing that is neither confirmed or denied, but I guess we'll see. And I think we'll go there with it being neither confirmed or denied. We'll get to Blood and Cheese, which they aren't named as that, but they are called Blood and Cheese in the book. The two, the rat catcher and the soldier, Blood and Cheese is what they're referred to as, because we don't know their names.
Yeah.
But they are just known poetically from like the ballads, Blood and Cheese.
But so Rhaenyra,
Is in mourning.
yes, but because she spends a couple of days going to find
I feel
the
like
body
it's been
of her
roughly
son.
been a week, maybe.
Yeah.
Roughly.
They got to go find her son so that she can grieve. Everyone gets a little bit of a good moment. Rhaenys has been flying around doing her job. It really is just a status quo episode.
Yeah, because we see that Daemon is incredibly frustrated as a character. He's someone who thrives in war. He likes to be doing something, and there's that sense in episode 10, he's almost kind of joyful. Like his wife's there, like giving birth to a stillborn, and he's like already running council. So he's ready to go.
Yeah.
So in this, he's
And
kind of
also
twiddling his thumbs.
vengeance on his brother, who
Vengeance on his brother, and
For his brother,
he's
sorry.
incredibly pissed off because he's pointing the finger at everyone. Like he's going to Rhaenyra when she drops off. You could have fucking ended this in the Dragon Pit. He goes to fucking Eric or Arik, whichever one it is, and he goes, "You could have fucking ended this too."
Yep, and to the White Worm.
Yeah,
He's
the White Worm.
and she brings up the fact that you're just mad at me because you're so far away from your actual enemies.
Thankfully, they fixed her accent. What
She
the
dropped most of her
that
accent.
weird Caribbean. It felt ADR to me in that season sometimes, that they had went back and made her to do it. The actress herself is a classic English-speaking woman. She speaks.
They toned it down so much.
They
and I am glad.
give her a bit of. She has a bit of
a
flavour.
couple of words twisted.
But I don't think that's down to fan. I think that's just when they were in the edit, they were like, "Oh, that is not
What
playing
have we
well."
done?
Yeah, that's not playing well in maybe it played well in person with
Yeah.
ears, but yeah, it's a small thing.
So the only new thing we get is King's Landing is now getting fortified with scorpions. I didn't know they had scorpions. I thought that was the future thing.
Scorpions are never mentioned, I'm pretty sure, in the
Yeah,
book, because why would they need to defend against dragons?
Yeah,
when
they never
the
saw it coming.
dragons are all-
They never had time to make them up.
I'm pretty
to invent
sure
them.
they never exist.
Whereas they make a lot of sense in Game of Thrones when Daenerys is coming. But I'm not mad at their existence because
I'm not mad.
They had a bunch of time to plan. So
and I can believe that in Game of Thrones, Qyburn would have went over the text and went, "Oh, the scorpions from the Dance of the Dragons."
But
and would
they built them too quickly. I get that they come up as like a mechanic of we need money, we're preparing for war. But it just felt strange that they already had scorpions in the space
already
of like
working
a
on it.
week. Yeah.
Maybe you could argue Otto, being the constant planner, was always
Possible,
thinking.
yeah.
And we actually get to see, they mean fuck all to you, but to me, I was like,
The Smiths?
Well, that's you, the hammer, because he's a smith, a very important character coming
Okay.
up. And then we have old mate Corlys meets with
Alan?
Alan of Hull.
And then I heard the name Alan. I'm like,
and then he
that sounds
mentions
so
his
strange.
brother Adam. He's Adam. Alan is spelled Alyn, and Adam is Addam.
Because Game of Thrones.
Because Game of Thrones, they are, but to me, I was like, oh shit, it's Alan of Hull.
They're doing fan service well because I don't feel like
You'd go, oh, it's that guy in episode 2 and 3.
I
But
don't
for
have
me,
it
I'm
forced
like,
down my throat.
fuck, it's right there because I know who these people will be.
Yeah.
Aemond, whatever kind of sense of regret that we got with him killing his nephew, at the end of that scene, we see him like harden, and here obviously he doesn't seem to be at all like traumatized by the fact that he
Yeah, I
killed
really
someone.
liked the fact that they both lost control of their dragons. Arax?
Yeah,
Arax
was
attacked
scared.
Vhagar, and then Vhagar destroyed him, and you hear like, no, don't, like, fuck.
Yeah, because-
which is a good character moment, because like, yeah, Aemond wanted revenge. He didn't want to start a war.
Yeah.
Whereas here, he definitely seems more on the war side.
I think it's more because they don't bring it up, but he's a kinslayer now. It's a pretty big thing, and in the book, which they get rid of here, it's like Aegon like runs a banquet in his celebration. Like, yeah, fuck that bastard.
Aegon's a big old wanker.
Big
Yeah.
old wanker in the book. So in this, I like that they've tried to soften that. We get to see good old Cristin Cole is at work there.
Sorry, do you know the Cristin Scholl song? Cristin Scholl is a horse. Cristin Scholl is a horse.
Oh, Cristin Scholl is a horse. Cristin Scholl is a horse. Well, look at her dance like a look at her go like a look at her dance like a horse. Oh!
Okay, whenever I hear Cristin Cole, I just think of Cristin Scholl, which just makes me think of Cristin Scholl as a horse. But he might be a horse because he gets ridden in this episode. He sullies his white cloak once more.
Once more. It's funny you mention a horse because that is it's a very dumb thing in Game of Thrones. In the books, there's a Tigert Lannister, and Tigert disappears in like book 2, and someone goes, he was last seen a horse, but then everyone, like he was riding a horse.
Yep.
Tigert was last seen a horse, so now you get all this fan art of Tigert as a horse. like
That's good.
so-
Yeah. I do have to say, I don't like Cristin Cole at all, mainly because I think his character was one of the biggest victims of the rush. Like,
Incel.
He had to swap sides. So they went with, he decided to run off and marry Rhaenyra, and she was like, no, but we can still bang. And he's like, not good enough. I sullied my cloak for you. I'm going to go sully my cloak over here instead.
He's a character who we don't get much from in the book. He's simply a young knight.
That just means that they could have given him something.
Exactly, because in this it's just that him and Rhaenyra were together, but then we don't know what happened. Either Rhaenyra came onto him and he said no, or he came onto Rhaenyra and she said no. And so they spurned from then on.
Yeah.
And then it's just meant to be he was all pro Team Green from then on.
Because then he murders Laenor's boyfriend over it, like
in the
Night of Flowers. That's what he-
the
Kisses.
Night of Kisses.
Yeah.
In the book, he it's during a tourney, so it's not an outright murder. It's just an accident at
Which
tourney,
makes more sense than
which
him
it's meant to be
bludgeoning
more
to death.
purposeful. That it's a hatred towards.
Yeah, did he go too far? Was it avoidable? Whereas now
Yes.
he just beats him to death in the middle of a thing.
I think it's because he was so embarrassed that it's now been outed that people know that he's sullied his
Might have
cloak.
worked if they fleshed it out.
Yes.
But in this, he still hasn't aged. It's been over 20 years since we first saw him.
He's 30 years old. The king in real life is 29. She is 30 years old. And Ewan Mitchell, who's playing Aemond, Ewan Mitchell. Sorry, I'm always going to fang about. He's 26, 27.
He is a terrifying looking man, even without the scar.
He's got the He's got an actual real life royal jaw.
It's crazy. Him and Daemon are my MVPs of the entire show. Like, Daemon, Matt Smith just carries.
He's such a great actor.
He needs to come back as the master just because he's proven, like in this and
He's so
Morbius,
good.
he was the best in Morbius. Just fun. He would be a fun master. And anyway, enough about Doctor Who. But him and Aemond both carry themselves and their characters so well. We really don't know enough about Aemond for my liking because he doesn't get enough time.
Well, he's George's big anime villain. That's what everyone says.
Which, bullied as a child, now he's evil.
Eye patch. And a sapphire instead.
I get why he does some things. Like, if he just wanted to prove himself and be powerful, I'd be like, that's great. But then in last season, he says, I don't give a fuck about tournaments. Like, he doesn't care about but I'm like, if your whole thing is proving yourself, shouldn't you care about that?
He sees himself as a would-be king. Like, he says, I'm the one who studies, I'm the one who rides the
dragon. But then he also helps out. He gets Aegon back,
he's
and he's like
furiously loyal to his brother.
Maybe we just need more time with him, and we might actually get that this season because we have so much more time.
Yeah, I'm not giving things away, but yeah, I know what's coming with these characters. So.
Yes, that's my one hope, that we get more flesh on the bone for him because he's already so good. There's almost nothing there, but he's pulling it off better than anyone else around him.
Yeah, he is,
and I just want more.
Well, actually, I should bring up then another key thing that's definitely a plant seed is Larys, the clubfoot, meets with Aegon. And,
yes, to become the hand.
Well, he implies that Otto maybe isn't suitable because he was your father's hand, and really, do you want?
He's had 3 kings, and they've all died.
Yeah. And do you really want to be just that guy who just kept that guy around? Do you want to actually make some fucking changes?
Yeah.
As of right now, we don't know why Larys does what Larys does.
Yes.
With Littlefinger, you knew he wants power, and he wants to marry Cat, and then when Cat dies, he'll marry Cat's daughter and just make her Cat.
Yeah, like,
and it's
close enough is good enough for me.
Is fucking the book, but yeah.
I didn't like Larys at all. He's half Tyrion, half Varys.
Yes.
You're right. We don't know why he does what he does. He killed his brother and father over it.
He's very much an agent of chaos in
All
some
because
ways.
he possibly just likes the Queen's feet.
Yeah, which is not in the book.
Which
Because
I'm not
once
mad
again,
at.
because it's constantly, we don't know why Larys did this.
Yeah.
So they're like,
But it
maybe
makes
it's
sense.
something as simple as only feet. And that's
Yeah,
it.
it makes sense. People do fetishize stuff that's wrong with other things. Like, I want more. And again, maybe we'll get that now. Although
yeah.
he's done a lot.
He replaces Alison's whole entire house staff.
Yes.
Which she doesn't like because I guess she thinks they're all agents to him.
Yeah. So it's like, it's not really better for her because they might have served the White Worm before, but now they serve Larys. So either way, Alicent loses.
Exactly. And it's also a subtle way to remove the showrunner who left, who was the director of some episodes of the original Game of Thrones, like The Long Night. His
I remember you saying
partner
this.
wife was that, you remember, the assistant who lights the candle, who is constantly there. And you're like, why would her assistant be there? Because she's the showrunner's wife.
Yep.
So, and apparently
That's
they
great.
left in part because he wanted her to become a showrunner producer. And they're like, no.
It's like, come on.
Like, we've gave her the favour that, like, if ever a handmaiden needs to do something, she's the one doing it. So it's a way to completely scrub her away as well.
Yep.
It's similar to how Cersei and Bronn dated briefly, so then they could never be in
Yes, they can
scenes
never be in a
together.
scene together, which is an insane thing to have happen.
Yeah.
Super unprofessional, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, you're both actors. Your job is to act.
Rhaenyra finally returns to Dragonstone, and her only words of the whole episode is, I want Aemond Targaryen.
Oh, yes, that is the only thing she says.
That's her brother she wants dead, even though she has no brotherly relationships with him.
I don't even think they've ever shared a scene together.
Yeah, they never really give them a connection in the book. She has more of a connection with Daemon's second wife who dies in the book.
Yeah, which might have been more interesting if they did spend some of season one making Aemond somewhat brotherly to them.
Well, Aemond tries to be nice at the funeral, like he wants to say something over the fire in that funeral episode, but doesn't. But we get a really nice scene, I thought, where Harry Collette comes and wants to be all formal and report the success with the Lady in the Eyrie and Cregan Stark. And then
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was a really nice scene. Crosscuts with Alicent, who, I mean, one of the highlights of season one was when young Rhaenyra and young Alicent go to the Sept and they share that moment, and Alicent is a very religious character, so that's partly why she kind of fell out with Rhaenyra, is that Rhaenyra swore, in a religious manner and broke that sway.
Alicent didn't do anything evil in this episode,
No,
which
but-
definitely helps. Maybe I think that they might be leaning more towards she is innocent,
And she-
other people are scheming around her. She does actually just want to protect her kids.
And she, at least to herself, even though she knows it's a lie, she acknowledges Lucerys Velaryon
Yes,
as
that was
being
nice.
a Velaryon. And I thought that was a nice, like, it's a level of tragicness to it. Yeah, there's all like nice little things as a fan that I like, but overall it's just setting the stage where we are, that both sides are kind of like, we all know we're going towards war right now, it's just who's going to make the big first move.
That's why I think it was weird ending season one when they did, because that didn't trigger the war. The war was already semi-triggered.
Yeah.
And this episode proves that we've had another hour where there was no war.
Yeah, we're all just waiting on it. I was a bit annoyed that we didn't get acknowledgement that Daemon the Daring, who is, Daemon is not mentioned, but in the original opening sequence, there's 4 bloodlines from the Alicent and Viserys.
Oh,
like,
they have a
split.
fourth kid?
They have a fourth kid who
Oh,
is
okay.
who is Daemon Targaryen, who is the youngest son, the youngest child of the Union, and he is squiring at Hightower.
Okay,
with-
so he's canon to the show then. They just have never showed him.
yeah, and everyone was hoping, but I don't even think he's been cast this season.
We already have so many characters in such a small space. I'd rather they do work with what they have.
That's it. Really, if you're not a book person, it doesn't matter. But as a book person, I'm thinking, well, if they were going to do it, they would mention Daemon. The reason why I bring that up is because Daemon he's the best of the children in terms of he is an honourable, nice guy. So for him not to be there kind of leads towards a more black favouring situation.
Yep.
Team black favouring, which I'm not really big into the team black, team green. One, because I know where this story goes. Anyway, moving on from that, we come into really the tragic end of the episode, which I knew was coming because it's the next big thing in the book, and that is a son for a son. Throughout the episode, we've seen 2 or 3 shots of Cheese, the rat catcher, with his dog. He's just been in the background. He was when Aegon was holding court. He walked by the door.
Helena has the line, "The rats are in the walls," or something,
And
or the rats will kill.
I'm really glad because there's nothing about Helena in the book, so it's really nice that they made Helena Luna Lovegood, basically. basically.
Yeah.
And she's a great character. I mean, the bit when she's like, mostly he just ignores you except when he's drunk. And I loved it because they had an improv bit where Rhys Ifans for Otto mouths to Helena, good. Like, you did a good speech. Like, he's at least a good granddad with her.
Yeah, it
like,
does
he has
help.
a favourite. She's granddad's favourite.
It does help us giving the counterbalance of, like, you got the douchebag brother, the evil brother, and then just this saint-like lady that's just kind of...
It's just knitting and one
she's
looks
just
after her
been
kids.
left in here. She had to marry a brother.
Yeah, which is so queer that Alicent not being a Targaryen's like, I don't want you to marry my kid. I'm going to marry my son and daughter instead, which is normal Targaryen practice. So.
But she had several good offers. Like this whole situation was so avoidable.
Well, that's it, and it's down to Viserys being such a laissez-faire, wants everyone to be happy, which is very relatable even for me. And
it works so well. Paddy Constantine was one of the best things of the season.
Crime, he never got nominated for anything, but. We get the sequence where Rhaenyra wants Aemond, which is not in the book. We are not told. We're just told that son for a son. Well, you might remember this, but Daemon gave the gold cloaks their gold cloaks. They're called the gold cloaks. Before he came to the City Watch, they weren't really a force.
Oh, they didn't make that clear in season 1.
Yeah, there's just the bit where they're all very happy to see him.
Yeah, they just made it he was in charge, and everyone's like, woo!
But they are fanatically loyal to him. That's where when that guy goes, Blood goes, Lord Commander, in his very deep voice.
Oh, incredible voice.
Holy shit, what an incredible voice.
They didn't make that very clear in season 1.
You hear Otto go, some of the Gold Cloaks still loyal to him. But so we see that, and then he goes, you're going to have to go kill Aemond. But, you know, he's a pretty good swordsman, and as we see, Cristin Cole, who, it's not stressed that much in the show, but Cristin Cole is incredibly highly rated soldier.
They show him, even when Aemond is quite good, Cristin Cole still almost gets him, or at least does get him. I can't remember exactly.
As a fan of the book, I was pretty like, oh shit, they're going to have, I'm such a fucking nerd for it, they're going to have Aemond best Cristin Cole. That's a pretty big move in terms of like power levels.
Yeah.
Not the Song of Ice and Fire is about that, but still. They go in there with the intention to kill the guy who killed him, but they don't or can't find, since Cheese doesn't actually know the layout of upstairs. Yeah,
it's them accepting a job that they are not qualified for, not ready for, but there's gold on the table, baby. You got to say yes.
Aegon has the twins, the boy and the girl, but him and Lena also have a younger son who's a baby, which is not in the show.
Okay, so Aegon and Helena only have the
twins when they have...
they're twins.
They're twins.
Okay.
And then they have a younger son who's like an infant.
Yeah.
Helena in the show goes to put them to bed, finds Blood and Cheese, and Blood and Cheese they have the eldest and they have the baby. And they make her choose. And she's like, please, I'd rather just die myself, kill me. They go, son for a son, you have to choose. So she chooses for the baby to die, hoping that the baby, being so young, won't know what's going on. And then Cheese or Blood goes, you hear that? Your mummy wants you dead, little boy. And then they kill the eldest one anyway. They kill, and then so
they made them a little bit more honourable.
So then she lives with which they'll probably do, but with the regret that she now has to look after the kid she chose to die. But
they did it the opposite in this. They actually killed the one that she pointed out.
Yeah, they killed the one she pointed out. They did the whole.
So does she love her kids less, or is she so Luna Lovegoody that she?
I think it's. Yeah, poor girl. Like, is what I'm saying. Like,
okay,
it's horrifying, and I didn't like,
because I guess if she just said no, they would have killed both if she didn't choose.
I just think the tension, like, obviously I knew what was going to happen, so I wasn't that tense. Yeah. How about you? Because it played like it was played like a tension thing. The
scene builds, like the music, the soundtrack alone is building through that whole scene.
Well, did you really think they were going to kick the door open and find Aemond there? Like, were you expecting that?
I mean, I don't know what I expected, I guess. I probably should have seen it coming because they did show, what's Aegon's kid's name?
Jaehaerys, I think.
That's right, yes. Yeah, they showed Jaehaerys like 3 or 4 times.
You
like,
get
we're going to make him king. And then they like, look at Jaehaerys, like, oh... That's probably another problem about it being so sped up, is like, this is the first time we've properly seen that kid. Yeah, no, I think the scene built really well. It was a little confusing as to why she picked who she picked, but I guess, again, it is because she was just a crazy person.
I think, you have the choice between killing one of your children.
Yeah,
it's
I thought
not even a choice.
She didn't like the boy as much. It was still obviously super affecting because it is a child that they're murdering.
And it was
it's a lot of guttural noises, like they're sawing their way through that kid.
And then she just walks.
But that's what makes it Game of Thrones. Well, that thing, she shuts down, she goes into denial, she takes her kid she can.
And then
we
can never do this again, which is, has anyone ever said in a show, we can never do this again, and then they proceed to never do it again?
It's just mainly annoying because, again, Cristin called him outrageous, and why is he selling his gold cloak? Because wasn't that the whole problem?
I think it's that he's not as honourable as he would like people to think is simply it. It's implied that they've been hooking up even when Viserys was alive.
Yeah.
And she's been selling her feet pics to Larys. So,
it seems like they were in the other season, but I thought maybe that was he had come over and he wasn't doing that anymore. He's like, if I can prove to myself that I'm not going to bang the queen, then I'm honourable again.
Well, now he's
but
like,
then he immediately bangs
anymore.
the queen. So I was like, God damn it. So yeah, I don't really understand his young ass character. But no, it's super guttural. But that's what makes it Game of Thrones. Those shocking moments.
Rhaenyra gets to keep face a little bit because she just wanted Aemond to die.
Yeah,
like an audience member will go, oh, that's justifiable. But then now to kill the innocent boy who we saw was just playing with the plug-in, the ball.
And because it was the heir, it looks like it's on purpose.
Yeah, and it's Daemon who did it because we're told, well, if we can't find Aemond, what should we do? Daemon, we assume, would go, any kid will do at this point.
Oh, true, they did cut away from that bit, so that's what he meant. So Daemon probably was on board, but again, he's unscrupulous, that boy.
Well, Daemon is George's favourite character in the lore because he's such, he's both a charming character, but then he also does particularly evil things at times.
Strangles his wife,
Strangles his wife. He puts on his mischief hoodie and, God, I mean, sometimes looking at Rhaenyra going, am I going to, it's the classic joke, am I going to have to get the old divorce rock out again?
Yeah. He's again, masterfully played by Matt Smith.
I remember people were so annoyed when some were like, Matt Smith as Daemon. I'm like, fuck yeah, that's a great choice. Well, what do you talk? Because they only know him as, fucking fish fingers goofball. I'm like, nah, mate, he's going to fucking smash it.
He's incredible.
Overall, obviously, we haven't really touched on it, but I don't know how much this does or doesn't cost, but it really says something because the season 1 came out alongside Rings of Power. Rings of Power being the most expensive show ever, and this show looked notably better to me.
The only thing I'll say is the hallways feel a little bare, as in like of people. Like there's not that many randoms.
They've built more sets for the Red Keep, like the staircase, and they're definitely getting the most out of them. But they're shooting them from every which angle. Yeah. Dragonstone too. I fucking hate Dragonstone in the show. Dragonstone in the book is so cool because it's Valyrian magic, so they're all dragon-shaped towers and stuff. The same with Winterfell. Yeah. Winterfell looks like shit.
But they showed it in Game of Thrones, so they've kind of been locked into it.
And they were more practical castles. I get it, but they did subtly make the Red Keep a little bit bigger. Okay. If you compare the Red Keeps, they're a little bit bigger.
But no, it feels like Game of Thrones. Like it feels like House of the Dragon. It feels like how it should.
I just think production-wise, it's an incredibly beautiful show. It's one of the best-looking shows on TV.
Bit dark, but that's
the Ryan said they were trying to make it lighter, and I thought they did all right. I thought it was
some of the scenes were.
It was a whole dark sequence, and I could see what was going on. I was quite happy. Obviously, it's a 2-year wait. You might have some people going, really, that's it, 2 years? And in this binge era, maybe you want 2 episodes, or like The Boys, you're opening on 3 episodes.
I'm glad they're doing weekly, especially if it starts to get conniving and more dramatic stuff happens.
It helps that people are talking a lot. People talk week to week.
And also it's easier for me to do 1 video a week.
Of course. But this is an 8-episode season, not 10.
Oh, not 10?
And it's down to, there's some lengthier episodes. I mean, you'll probably find the timeline, but some of them are going to be like 70 minutes.
Well, that's the thing. I'm not really sure where this is going to go because I know obviously everyone has to die-ish for Game of Thrones to make sense. Like only one team.
There can't be any more dragons knocking about.
Yeah, only one team can win. So obviously big stuff is going to happen, but I can't really see a specific through line apart from everyone's going to start killing each other very soon.
Yes, it's very curious how they will present it in a narrative sense. Overall, we're back. I'm very, very excited to be back.
Overall, it was definitely a status quo episode, but at least it ended with a bang. So people are going to be talking about it. People are going to be thinking about it. The only thing I'd say is if only we had more time with Helena and her kids so that people could have been built up.
We've only had probably a minute's worth of time with them.
Yeah, it's just lacking build up, but hopefully because there's no more time skips, they're set in whatever they need to do.
There is no more time skips.
And everything can just build from here. So if they keep the quality and they just wrap their heads around the little timeline thing, then should be a fantastic season. A lot of the time before a war, there's a lot more interesting stuff going on because everything's interweaving. So I'm hoping now that the war's begun, we still keep a lot of that plotting because honestly, that's where a lot of the intrigue and a lot of the goodness,
that's why
a lot of the Game of Thrones comes from.
Like, subscribe, comment. What did you think? Are you guys book readers or are you a show watcher?
Hopefully next week gives you something to bite onto.
Oh, nice.